Welcome back to the REI Hot Seat. Today we're talking about a 6-unit with a possible 7th.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if we're going to give out the city. Are we saying the city?
Sure. Southwestern Ontario. It's in Stratford.
Stratford. Okay,
Yeah.
so we got a Stratford deal. Stratford's a cool town. If you haven't been there, I'd recommend it. It's kind of artsy town, theater.
Yeah.
And
It's got its
quaint.
pockets.
It's quaint, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really retained its heritage. I think they have a lot of control on that. But
They do.
yeah, maybe we'll talk about that here.
Which actually comes into play in
our
today's
deal.
chat.
Yeah, because how do you expand a building when somebody's going to have something to say about the character of your building?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Jake, thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Tell me about the deal.
Let's dive into it. So today, Andrew, I brought us a deal. It is on MLS. It's a 6-unit retrofit. Okay. So it used to be just a house, I guess, a church,
Yeah,
a house.
so not a
something like
purpose
that.
built.
Not a purpose built.
Okay.
But it is brick. It is a very
big brick building.
Yeah, big brick building is very sound, good style. There is a heritage designation on it. So exterior is designated heritage.
Yeah, so you can do what you want on the inside. Now,
got it.
I've dealt with heritage in the past, and if you didn't change the front profile, you were okay. Like you could add on to the rear, but that was in a heritage neighborhood, not a heritage designation.
So, and you got to be careful with each.
Yeah.
Each city has its own bylaws. Stratford being a very heavy heritage town, you really got to watch out. Now, on the flip side, that there also might be grants for that. So, for example, I just closed a deal with some clients of mine, and it's a heritage building, and we were concerned about the cost of replacing some of the windows or the front facade because of the heritage designation. Well, we called the city, and we found out they have a grant up to, it was like $50,000 up to replace windows and frontage on a historical building, right? So maybe that's
they'll
not
give
going
you money.
It's not going to cover all of it naturally, but they will give you money to touch some of the heritage stuff as long as you keep it in guidelines, right?
So the city will give you money.
Correct.
I've not heard of that, but that's...
Almost all heritage departments have it. Burlington has it. I know Hamilton does.
So if you'll do upgrades by preserving or preserve
So
the
usually
elements.
it's like keeping the wood windows, right? Wood windows cost much more
Where
than...
was this when I was doing my project? I was getting all chummy with the heritage guy in London when I was trying to do a project.
Yeah, different grants and different
never
things
did
like
that
that.
come up.
Yeah.
Although he did, work with me and I got it done.
Yeah.
I find people run from heritage, especially in London. I noticed
Well,
that
look,
people don't want to deal with it
Your insurance is going to be higher. There are going to be restrictions.
because
right?
you can't rebuild in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Like you'd need special permission.
You got it, right?
Yeah.
So yes, there's definitely pros and cons to it. I think for the right deal, I wouldn't run away. Just do your due diligence, right? What are we looking at here? Talk to the Heritage Society. Do they have grants? Do they have funds?
Yeah, I definitely go make friends with them. I can tell you that much, very least. Like I would go in and literally talk to the guy and just say, hey, how can we make this work? And
here's the beautiful thing, right? As long as you're keeping the frontage and the facade the same, they're usually your best buddy. Right?
Yeah.
If you just go in there and bring them a donut and talk with them about it.
Well, yeah, that's it, right? Like maybe bring them a coffee, but certainly don't make it like you're trying to go around them. Whatever their wisdom is, I think you just got to say, oh, okay, I see where you're coming.
Lean into it. Try to work with the system rather than against it on these types of assets.
Push it downhill, like do what they want to see if you can make that profitable. Otherwise, look for the next deal. But here's where I think the opportunity is. You learn how to work with those people and then you keep an eye for deals. And a lot of other people haven't had those conversations. So then when you see a deal come up, all of a sudden you can rock and roll with it.
It's always just knowledge, right? Knowledge is power. Like your strategy could be solely buying historical buildings in Stratford because nobody else wants them.
I look at that. Anytime I see something that no one else wants to do, I'm like, that's an opportunity. I say that all the time on the show. And I reference my experience with Heritage because it was like the most profitable deal I've done. So rock and roll. Tell me about this one.
Anyway, so that's not the main part of the deal here. But so this 6 units, okay, why I like this deal, there's 3 reasons I really like this deal. Number one is there's a possible 7th unit we can add to this spot. There's an empty attic space, which from my knowledge has, when they redid some of the wiring in the building, they got an ESA permit to run the wires up as well. So supposedly upstairs is already all wired in for electrical.
All right. But so there's room in the existing building.
But it's raw space, right? So it would be like an attic space, kind of that dormered roof, but it would make a great 1-bedroom unit.
Do you know rough square footage? Or be like 500 square feet or something like that?
I haven't measured it or anything, but just looking at it, I would say you're probably 400.
But it doesn't look like awkward. It looks like it'd be an okay unit.
Yeah, you'd make it work. Yeah. Is it ideal? No, but you definitely make it work.
Still fetch like 1,200 rent.
It could be a very cool kind of brick and beam looking attic space.
I mean, with the demand for rents right now, if you have something that's safe and done under permit, I think that there's going to be somebody that wants to rent it.
Yeah, exactly. So the building itself is in really good condition. Exterior looks fantastic. Interior, it looks like we are out of 6 units, I would say 4 of them are renoed, top to bottom, and the remainder need a little bit of work.
And these are all recognized by the city?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so then is the zoning congruent with the use?
Correct, yeah.
The zoning allows for 6 units? Does it allow for 7?
I think it's grandfathered in.
So it's grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So you'd be going for a minor variance. So this would require a little bit of digging on what the bylaw allows.
Correct.
And then you'd have to look at what's our floor usage, gross floor area versus what you're allowed to do. And are we looking for a minor variance to go to 7 units? And
That's it.
I don't know if this Most one would have a number of units per hectare or something like that you're allowed. Depends on the zoning.
Yeah, and we'd have to dive into that, but it is a really nice big site. So it's 130 frontage by 158 depth.
130 by 158. Okay, that's a nice big lot.
It's a nice big lot.
So there's probably lots of parking there.
There's more than enough parking, and you could honestly we'd have to really dive into it. So this is a completely, don't hold me to this, but you might even be able to do a further addition onto this thing. Like there's a lot of space.
There's a lot of stuff that would be worth looking into. And these are like little mini projects. I used to just like sit in an afternoon, I'd just go through lot after lot, and I would download the zoning map and I would measure things and look at the zone, and I'd constantly compare it. And that's how you learn what you can and can't do.
Exactly. So the one reason we can expand, right? Very cool. The other reason I really like this listing is if you take a little Google Drive, a little Google Street View through the neighborhood, or you actually go drive down there and check it out. The neighborhood is definitely an upper class neighborhood. It's either all new custom builds or historical, like 2.5 story, beautifully
like Victorian,
renovated.
Victorian brick.
So you're in a good part of town. You have a very nice building. It's a solid asset, right? So it's checking the boxes for me, for somebody that's like a dentist or a doctor or someone who doesn't have a ton of time to be down there, but still says, if I get the right crew, maybe we go and add that 7th unit and make a little bit more profit.
So you're thinking this is a turnkey?
I look at it as a turnkey adjacent.
Turnkey long-term play.
Yes.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at what do they want for the building?
So they're asking 1,650.
Getting that heritage pricing in there. So not necessarily a reno to be done, but do we know the rents?
We do. So we have unit 1, 1,250. That's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. They're on month to month. We have unit 1B, 2 main floors split up into 1 and 2.
Okay.
So that's $1,000 and 26 month to month as well. Unit 2, which is now 3 technically, is going to be 1,012.
These are low rents.
Yeah. And then we have the next unit is 1,650. That's a brand new lease.
Okay.
So I would say 1,650.
And these are all 1 bed units?
Those are all 1 beds.
Okay.
And then there's 2 bedrooms. And those
last two.
Yeah, the 2 beds are going for 24 and 24. And those I would say are relatively at market. I'd say 24 to 25 is probably the market.
Okay. And then is 1,650 a fair 1 bed?
1,650 is the 1 bed price.
Okay. So then we've got 3 here that really need to get bumped up.
Correct. Now there's one more thing I want to add, Andrew.
Sure.
So the 2 bedroom units will be vacant on closing.
Those two bedroom
One is
units.
owner occupied.
Oh, okay.
And one is will be leaving. They've already signed their
so these are just market rents. 2,400 is the market rent.
Yeah, market rent.
Yeah, okay. We'll just put a note there, 2,400 for market rent. And then we think these are 1,650 for the 1 bed all the way up. So, and then there's that potential income. So in looking at this building now, like if you're assuming those 2 bedroom units can just get replaced with other tenants, then you're 9738 now and could be 11.4. Okay, so let's work with the 9738 and make some assumptions.
And
so
there's laundry in the building, so there's coin laundry.
Yeah, so there's
just throw that in. So throw another
$1,000,
$250 a month is what they have here.
The $3,000 a month for that. That's okay. Do we know our taxes?
We do. So property tax $9,735.
Insurance. Yeah, you feel like it's a more accurate number if it's not uneven, as we said.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because usually it's like 5,000 on the dot.
Yeah. Oh, so you're estimating.
You know how many times I've had an insurance quote that was a round number, zeros all the way? Never.
What's our insurance number on this one?
So insurance number on this one, they're claiming 5,300.
5,300. Always get your own quote, but yeah, that's
please get your own quote, especially with historical properties.
Okay, so maintenance on this one, I've got 5% in here. I saw some pictures of it. It looks like it's fairly well kept. So let's just assume that could do. Utilities, is it separately metered, and what is separately metered?
So hydro's not separately metered. It is bulk, and it includes water as well.
Yeah, so there may be some separate electrical metering, but water is definitely central.
Based on what we have.
Yeah, hydro is technically water and electrical.
Yeah.
Hydroelectric, right? Hydro is for
I know
water.
In Burlington it's together. Some towns
they all
have
call
it
it
separate.
hydro. If you tell an
together.
American like you pay hydro, they're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you mean electrical? Anyway, so
5,100 for hydro.
Yeah, which is water and electric. Okay.
Yeah, and then gas, we have 4,200. And then we have just the accoutrements here, garbage collection and landscaping.
Okay, so I have a management figure there, but landscaping, snow removal, and garbage collection, what are we looking at?
So landscaping, snow removal, I'm looking at $500 a month, and snow removal, $400.
Okay, so $450 a month on average. I think that's
very, actually not bad.
That's very conservative. I think it could potentially even be done for less than that. That seems like who overshoots that when they
Sorry,
give
that's
numbers?
yearly, Andrew.
Oh, they think $450
yearly. Sorry, I think I said monthly.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna just say $1,500, and then for the garbage collection, what are we saying? It's like $180.
$950 a year. Okay. So the $400 and the $495 for the landscaping and snow yearly, maybe one of the tenants is taking care of it.
Possible, right? But yeah, that is possible. So we could play with that number. I'm just gonna put a little highlight on it to indicate to myself to maybe adjust
something to look into.
Yeah. Okay. So at a 1.650, that's a 4.8% cap rate. It looks. What would we be looking at for like a financing strategy here? You just be looking at standard commercial financing.
So I played around with a few different options. One of the options I looked at was, because of the style of the building, because it's fully renovated, I think you would benefit here from going mini splits. I think you would benefit from efficiencies. So just an option, and everybody knows I love the MLI Select program, but my thought was, okay, why don't we look at going in with a VTB right off the bat, perhaps?
So ask the seller for a vendor take back.
That would be my opening bid, right?
And then yes, separate the metering. I think it's worth following up with the seller here on exactly how utilities are split, if they are. I mean, it would be very normal. When I look at an old building like that, I assume water is central because very few buildings that are not purpose-built separate water. So that right off the bat. And then gas, I would say 98% of the time, and you might agree that, especially with old buildings like that, it's not separately metered. Like, they're not going to have a separate boiler in each apartment.
No.
That's just not going to be. And if you're not electrical baseboard, then your heat is not separated.
Correct.
So those things I expect to be central. So in this case, I think the most common thing you find is electric is separately metered, which is probably the case here. And they probably have a central one. So that 6,000, that 6,000 is probably everyone's water and the central electric. Worth digging into a bit more.
And we can, anybody that's curious about this stuff, like, sign up below and we'll go into it. But my thoughts was opening bid, try for the VTB, 75% loan to value. Give them their price or darn close to their price. Right? I don't think it's too off the mark, and try to get that VTB, try to get some favorable terms here. Go in. We can look at sub-metering water if possible. We can look at going mini splits. So getting rid of the gas, maybe updating the hot water tanks. And then to get it over that threshold, okay, we can go LED lighting and we can go low flush toilets and low flush faucets. And
so there's lots of things that could be done. Maybe even some grants. We were just talking about this before. Like, you might be able to get some credits back for energy efficiency as you.
That's it. So my approach, that would be kind of option A, would be go
for a VTB.
Get a 1.5, 2 year VTB.
Well, who knows? Maybe you can get a 10-year VTB. Like, if you don't ask, you don't ever know. Here's the thing: like, you don't know if they have a mortgage on it. And if maybe they have a mortgage for $250,000, in which case they have some flex, you can give them enough to pay off that $250,000.
And here's the thing, right? And then if they do have a mortgage and they're leveraged up to the max, what's the backup plan here? Well, I would go in and I would look at, okay, maybe do we go for traditional CMHC financing right off the bat? Right? Can they give us the
extended close?
The extended close to get that done, right? And now we're looking at a 35-year AM.
Well, so say if they did a VTB, maybe you can get, an interest only. I just put 1,000 years in the AM if it's interest only. Maybe they'll do interest only at 4% for a year. In which case you could cash flow $2,500 a month first year. Use that as an opportunity to structure the CMHC program or something else.
Add that other unit and go CMHC.
Add the other unit. Right? Like, that probably it can't be done in a year unless you're really efficient.
Yeah, maybe you go for a 2.5-year VTB.
Yeah,
so I think the name of the game on this one is we're in a market where you have the time to ask these questions. Right. And that's what's so cool about it right now is nothing's selling overnight. So let's be strategic about it. Let's leverage this time in the market to find a way to structure deals in a positive way.
CMHC would want a 1.2 DCR, right?
Traditional CMHC is 1.2, and then MLI Select is 1.1.
Okay, so 1.2. So if we're still at like a 4.85, then even with CMHC, until you get the rents up, you're probably closer to a 70%. But I think part of that plan in the first year is going to be take those first 3 units and see what you can do. If it's one of the N13 rent eviction kind of thing where you get them out and you add value that way, that would be my strategy with that. And then go back.
Or you're getting 2 vacant units in there, so maybe it's a house hack. Anybody want to live in Stratford, right?
Does CMHC like that? Like, can you do that with their commercial programs?
I actually don't know. That's a really good question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'd be fine with it. I'm sure they'd be fine with it. That's probably a lesser common one, not as common for them.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably just look at overall return on this one. It's tough to say what you're going to see as far as mortgage rate here goes, because there's so many different ways we can look at this. But say you did do CMHC at 40-year amortization, you're paying off $11,000 a year on your mortgage. Yep. Say it's going to go long term, right? Properties aren't going up 2% a year right now, but traditionally that's always what I've factored. So say that we get that's like $33,000 a year. Combining that return, cash flow is a little low right now, so the overall return isn't looking that great yet. It's really what you could do with it, right? So say you got that rental figure up to the $11,400. What does that do to the overall return? Well, first off, cash flow goes up to $2,200, and then the overall return goes up to 16.28%. And who knows, down the road, things could go up a lot more. Yep. If inflation picks up, maybe that actually drives up asset values again one day. Who knows?
And here's things, right? We've also gone through and we've run this a bit more conservative. We run it a bit more realistic. So let's just pretend for a minute that the landscaping and snow removal is accurate at 400.
Yeah, and that's the
right?
other one, like you could drop down because, say for some reason, you can always work creative deals with people. I've got a 5% management in here. You could self-manage.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things, so that's $7,000 a year right there. Like if you just...
I always like to look at these performers. Like when I talk to my clients, I say, hey, here's how the bank is going to look at it.
Yeah.
And then here's how we should look at it. Or here's how you could possibly look at it, right?
Yeah, that's great. Like it's not like looking at a deal with it either works or it doesn't. It's the how do we make it work?
How do we make it work? Yeah. And importantly, the other thing is, at the bottom, the cash flow at the end of the day here, the landscaping numbers, these things can change. And, I always say to people, like the number that's actually coming to your account is different than the bottom dollar cash flow.
Because there's contingencies in here. For instance, your maintenance allocation, you might not spend that for the first 2 years. But then the third year, you have a big expenditure. Exactly. I like to build in life cycle stuff. Like your furnace goes 1 year. That's a really expensive year. But then the other 5 years, your furnace doesn't go. You're really profitable. So,
and that's a great point, right? And then to that, Andrew, I always say, okay, so, people go, well, my building's not cash flowing very well. What if my roof goes, or what if my furnace goes? Then I say, well, then when you go get your mortgage, ask for a line of credit.
Yeah,
right.
You could do that.
Get a small line of credit as a security blanket, and then those first 2 years, you have time to build up your bank account. You can go from there.
Cool.
Just little tips and tricks, right?
All right, Jake, you kind of alluded to it before, but how do people find out more about this deal or other deals that you have? You have a lot of off-market deals as well.
Yeah. As always, link down below. Click on it. We'll reach out. You'll most likely get a call or an email if you just leave us your email from Shannon. Shannon will reach out, get all your details, and then I'll get on a call with you directly, and we can go over any deal we've discussed previously or potentially deals that are coming up in the future. We'll have a chat and it'll be a good time.
As I mentioned, you've been bringing up a lot of interesting deals lately and a lot of off-market stuff, so it's pretty cool. Interesting time for that, right? There's a lot of stuff that people could take a look at right now, which is great.
You got it.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Jake. Thanks everyone for watching. If you made it this far, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell somebody about this show if you think it'll help them. We're growing and we'd love your support. See you next week.